So let us start with this newspaper. So on Monday, the first news: airlifting troops to tanks, artillery to radar. No let up in IAF operations. So basically, these skirmishes that we have had over the last 3 years, and then the entire Galwan issue. And so basically, the article is saying that what we have done with respect to increasing our military infrastructure on the eastern Ladakh border, and you should be aware of these friction points that are there and what China has done. So there were buffer zones. So the border that we have with China is called line of actual control, and you should also know the real line as well. What was the name for? I think it's McMahon line. That is the original border that the British had created, but what we have right now is line of actual control, and in this line of actual control there were some buffer zones which were violated by China in the 2020 Galwan issue, and now they've put up permanent bases there, and they have not allowed the Indian side to patrol that particular area. So this is the legacy of this particular issue, and now we've been discussing at the commanders level and at bilateral level. We are asking them to vacate to that place, so that that place becomes a no military zone kind of a place, and both the parties can patrol in that area. The areas such as Deep Sang and Demchok continue to persist, and we've been having these talks with them. So this is the article, just a reminder of what is happening. Then you have the other article, which is good, which is safeguards in data law fear due to previous governments. Now, what Ashwini Vaishnav is basically saying is that there are fears against the government power in the Data Protection Act. Remember the Data Protection Board that is being set up. The government will appoint who will be the member of Data Protection Board, and whatever the decision of that particular board will only be challenged in the this thing telecom dispute this thing body. Now TDSAT. So this is one of the issues. The other is the government has been given a complete blank check with respect to violation of data privacy laws. So we already know that while our reading in the DPDP Act, that there is no provision for government. The government can use the data, and the government can also gradedly allow the private sector access of data and use of that data. So these are the some of the issues. So what Ashwini Vaishnav is saying, that if you compare it to the GDPR was the first law that came in the world with respect to data privacy, and it has around 16 exemptions for the government, and what he defends is that the number of exemptions that we have given are less, but at the same point of time we have given complete exemption to the government, which is not there in GDPR. So it is one of the stringent laws of the world, whereas that of US is one of the most liberal, and we are kind of somewhere in a combination in between. But there are elements of our law which are also similar to that of China, where we are regulating where our data cannot go. So these are combinations. You should have a comparative analysis with you with respect to China, India, US, as well as GDPR. Then and if you read the last part, more accountability from big tech companies, very important. Some of the major social media companies that operate in India have huge user base. So we are planning to control that. We are putting up responsibilities and punitive actions against if there is any leakage of data. Then apart from that, the law also has censorship provision to empower the central government to block any platform which has violated the provisions of the DPDP Act 2 times. And this is one of the censorships that is already available with the government under the Information Act section 69A. And there is another word that you should remember, which is regulatory sandbox. Now, what is this regulatory sandbox? Suppose you are testing a product. So when you're testing the product, you need to have some dummies, you need to have some users, you need to have some players. For example, you're building a a marketplace like Amazon. So in that case, you will not straightforwardly introduce it to the market. You will first have some kind of pilot project for it, and at that pilot project you will see how you are managing data, whether your data can be attacked or not. That is called as the regulatory sandbox. It's a regulatory sandbox in the sense that you're creating an experiment in a box, and you're checking what is working and how is it working. That in that particular phase, in that regulatory sandbox, if there is any problem in data violation, that is not an issue. But once you have launched the full version of the app, then you are not being given any regulatory sandbox provisions. Then you have to comply with the DPP Act, and it is said that in India will not give more than 2 years. It will be less than 2 years for all the companies to comply with this. So these are some small issues that you need to understand with respect to this particular news. Then another important news with respect to governance, and something that you need to take up and write as an example. Maybe you can take it up in ethics as well or in essay. It takes a village. Punjab's Malwa local committees take up a fight against Trump. So what this Malwa people have done is that they have confronted suspects, peddlers to youth who are died confronting alleged dealers. So they have all come together and they have launched a program. They have launched against the drug peddlers and the drug menace. If you see the other on the page number 6, the Nasha Roko committee have been formed at every village, and they are checking any person who's suspicious, any person who's new to the community, who's coming for the first time to the community, and selling something. They're frisking that person. They're checking whether that person is selling drugs or not. And once the supply of drugs are over, then in any ways anyone who's addict has to take help of the committee, so that they can be treated. So this is a very important initiative at the local level, local governance, people's participation. All of this can be put under this, and this is a very good example that you can use in your case. Yeah. Another example of bad governance could be this in Nu. Mahapanchayat says Yatra to resume on 28th August, wants guns for self-defense. Apart from that, some of the sarpanches in this particular area have also banned the coming of Muslim community. So you find that anti-religious rhetoric being played very widely and very sharply in Haryana these days. So that is another example that you can use. Page number 10, I'm not getting into it, but one news that you should be aware of is President to launch advanced Farragut with Vidyanagiri. So Vidyanagiri has been launched. Vidyanagiri has been the 6th ship that has been launched under Project 17A, and it is produced by Mazagon Docks shipbuilders, as well as Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers Limited. So both of them together have launched already 5 ships together. This is the 6th ship that we are launching. These warships follow the Project 17 class frigates, which is the Shivalik class. So I've already told you that all these classes, you should know. There is a Nilgiri class, there is a Shivalik class. All these defense related classes with respect to ship frigates that we have, you need to have a good understanding. So read this. Then let's come to the editorial page, which talks about a number of articles. So rewriting the code, you will keep getting these articles from now on, because the major changes that we had discussed the other day as well with respect to IPC 1860, the Indian Evidence Act, as well as the CRPC. Now, you should know that the IPC has been replaced with Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, and the CRPC is replaced by, remember this CRPC is 4 words, so it will be replaced by 4 words thing. This is how I've learned it. Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, and Bharatiya Sakshya bill, which is basically the bill for Indian Evidence Act. Now, we have already discussed a number of things with respect to IPC and with respect to CRPC, with respect to evidence. For IPC, we talked about the sedition law, we talked about zero FIR that has been introduced. We also talked about section 377, which has been decriminalized. But at the same point of time, there are some reworking of sections that has happened with respect to IPC. With respect to CRPC, again, we talked about the fact that new issues, for example, this thing, your crime against women has been defined, terrorism has been defined for the first time. Then with respect to mob lynching, that has come up in CRPC and IPC again. Then so these are fresh issues that have come up with respect to Indian Evidence Act. Video trials, video summary trials have been introduced. Then you have a trial in absentia that has been introduced, and we also have community punishment that has been reduced. So these are small things that you should anyways now be remembering, because we've done these articles now. So let's talk about this article. This article starts with the fact that the Indian government has changed these laws, or brought these new bills. At the same point of time, we already know that there was nothing in public domain that was given with respect to that the government is going to introduce these bills in this parliamentary session. Although one good thing is that they have been mentioned, they have been referred to the parliamentary committees for further discussion and deliberation. So these colonial era laws, the three laws have been now being revised, and it is said that they were anti-Indian, and they had a colonial mindset, and we are Indianizing these laws, as well as making updating them to the new the realities of the 21st century. If you see the second paragraph, we're talking about the imprint of long time ago has been reflected for far too long in the statute book. And for instance, the law that criminalized homosexuality, on which the courts have also weighed in, the repeal of sedition law points to a welcome shift in the balance struck between the individual liberty and national security, but it also frames the shift's incompleteness. So we have also added new terms to this thing, sedition. Remember, the article has now changed. The section has now changed from 124A to 150 under the BNS Act, and then it includes endangering sovereignty, unity, and integrity, but it doesn't define that what it means by including through financial aid, financial means, subversive activities, and feeling of separatist activities. All of these are terms that have been vague, and if your code is vague, then the interpretation and the application becomes even more difficult for courts. So going forward, new criminalization need to be carefully debated. Introduction for deceitful promise to marry as criminal offense, for instance. Insertion of community service as an alternate form of punishment could prevent more under trial languishing in jails. Recognition of murder by mob on ethnic, caste, and communal lines was also needed. But at the same point of time, more must be needed to minimize the vagueness and looseness of definition, and bring the code more fully in step with these changes on the society and advent of new technology. This is the main crux, that your society and your society law should reflect the changes, should reflect the society, and technology should be adopted with respect to law. And that is very true with respect to the courts as well. Then moves to curb inflation. We read in yesterday's newspaper that the inflation has reached the 7% mark. It is at 7.7% right now, and one of the major reasons for that is the inflation that we are seeing in cereals, milk products, in your vegetables. So all of these are weighed in, because of which the inflation has increased. And this basically article says the government is increasing. Government has put up in the open market huge amounts of wheat and rice. Around 5 million tons of wheat and 2.5 millions of rice has been put to reduce the prices in the market. And at the same point of time, the prices of onions and tomatoes are still higher than what they should, and all of this is going to feed the inflation, as we have already seen in yesterday's newspaper. and we were going to see in yesterday's newspaper. And apart from that, but the future is still bleak because of the fact that El Nino's impact will come, and in August we are seeing lesser amount of rainfall as compared to what is expected. So all of these factors are going to play, and remember that this is going to be an election year. The government needs to be very careful with respect to managing of inflation expectations. Coming to the other article, sorry, this was the article that I was doing. Now coming to the other article, erasing Macaulay's mark. Now this article again talks about the initial part, talks about a rhetoric of what the government is saying, that we used to use 420 in a very dubious manner. Now all of that will go. This basically law was enacted by Barrington Macaulay, and the British themselves have refrained from instituting a codified system, just a criminal justice system. So while they have themselves not used a codified system, they have applied it on us, and we've been using it for the last century or so. Now at the same point of time, if you see the next column, the move to reform laws is not merely a legal imperative but also a philosophical one. It is the journey towards self-realization, as John Locke would put it. The government contract. There is a contract between the government and the governed. Replacing the outdated and unjust provision of the law reflect the ethos, needs, and aspirations of contemporary India. Very very important point, that the law should evolve with people, because that is what the social contract is between the people and the government and those who are. Then if we talk about this thing, our criminal justice system, 77% of prisons in India are under trials. So our jails are filled with under trials. We need to resolve that as well. Then apart from that, we need to also have humane version of justice and criminal justice as well. Focus should be on rehabilitation as well as social integration. Therefore, community service becomes very important. Then there were certain inconsistencies in the criminal system. For example, the section 309 of IPC criminalized attempted suicide, which is now not there. While Mental Health Act 2017 presumes that the attempt is due to several stress and needs care rather than punishment. So while practically decriminalizing the act, it leaves section 309 in IPC creating a legal ambiguity, and therefore BNS has removed this particular section. Then apart from that, the Bharatiya what is it, Sakshya bill is crucial for modernizing. There's an error there. It's crucial for modernizing criminal justice system, reflecting similar changes in technology since 1872. Basically, they're talking about the Indian Evidence Act, and now you have all these new evidences that can be taken up. Another data point, that you have almost 5 crore cases pending if you include the cases of quasi-judicial forums. So usually it's around 4 crore, but if you add the quasi-judicial bodies, then around 5 crore, 50 million cases are pending. 2/3 are criminal cases in lower courts, and they need to be revised. They need to be completed within time, for which a new delivery system is needed. Very very important article for you to read. It has given you a number of points for you to discuss. Then you can read the India-Swiss article, time-tested friendship, but there's not enough meat in that particular question or article. Let's read another article, 2 articles. One that I want you to read by your own, The Fragile Uptick, which talks about the quarterly performance of the Indian corporate sector, and says the FMCG companies, some of them have seen a tick. The MSMEs are doing decently, but the economic slowdown is still looming large in the rural and as well as in the urban area. But my main focus is on the Arun Prakash article, which talks about Delhi and Tepai relationships. Now, what is happening is that India has sent or 3 retired service chiefs have now gone to have now gone to Taiwan, and Delhi is sending that India's options in case of military operation by Beijing to reunite Taiwan with People's Republic of China. So this article also gives you the history of this particular thing, that how it was promised even by the US in the 20th century that they will accept one China policy. One China policy means basically that all countries diplomatically do accept that Taiwan is a part of China, whereas it is said to be an independent nation, but it comes under the one China policy. And because of its strategic importance, because of its technological importance, economic importance, China is looking forward to taking over Taiwan because of its, especially because of its might in terms of economy and technology. But apart from that, from India's perspective, this is very important because Taiwan, is a very important player in the semiconductor industry. If you remember that person that we had talked about who started the Taiwanese semiconductor industry, I'm forgetting his name. I asked you to remember or write down about him. So that is very important part of our relationship with Taiwan. Apart from that, we have opened multiple consulates in India and in Taiwan for people to people contact and for moving people. So the first part basically talks about, the first part of the article talks about the history of it, the KMT, that how the Republic of China was established in 1912, downfall of Qing dynasty, and assumption of rule by KMT party. And then the civil war broke out between the KMT and the Communist Party. They came back together because of the Second World War, and after the defeat of the Japan, the CCP had won on the domestic front, and they have been ruling since then. And from 1971, ROC has been expelled, and this has been given to the People's Republic of China. Then it talks about the other aspect of what our history has been. But what we now know is that India has also recognized the one China policy, but at the same point of time, the Chinese have not reciprocated with respect to JNK as well as Arunachal Pradesh. So these are all the issues that you should have read in detail. Then, if you want, you can read the code of uncertainty. New bill carries an imprint which they disavow the opaque colonial state. But I'm going to go to the explain page. What is parliamentary privileges committee? How it works? So recently, the Congress party's Adil Rajan Chaudhary as well as Aam Aadmi Party's Raghav Chadha has been suspended from the House, pending reports from the Privileges Committee. Now, parliamentary privileges is a chapter in itself and given in Lakshmikant, but we need to read it, and you need to be very well aware of what these privileges are. So this article basically says that the Parliament and the MPs have certain rights and immunities that enable them to function effectively in their legislative roles. So basically, for their legislative roles, they've been given certain privileges. For example, they don't have to go for jury service. They don't have to go for this thing. They cannot be arrested during parliamentary days without approval. Then whatever they say in the parliament is cannot be held they cannot be held accountable in a court of law. So all these privileges have been given to the member of parliaments, and when the constitution framers made our founding document, it provided the parliamentary privileges would be specified in a law made by parliament, but that law has never come up. So until the national legislature has made this law, privileges would be those enjoyed by the House of Commons, the lower house of United Kingdom. But in 1978, the Parliament deleted this reference of House of Commons, but they are yet to make any law on it. Now, parliamentary privileges, therefore, are a mix of constitution, statutes, House procedures, convention. All of these are part of the how the parliamentary privileges are working. Now, if there is an act of breach of parliamentary privilege, any particular member from Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha can bring it to the Speaker of the House, and then once the Speaker of the House knows, it can recommend the examination of the matter to the Privileges Committee, as that has happened in this case, and they can suspend the member till the outcome is there. Currently, this thing MP Sunil Kumar Singh is the head of the committee. Then, apart from that, what kind of cases come to the committee? You can read all of these: making derogatory, misleading, unparliamentary, incriminating motions or statements that anyone will make will come under this. And what actions can they take? The convention allows that both houses of the MP against whom the privileges matter is raised gives an unqualified apology. The issue is allowed to rest. So all of these measures can be taken. You can read this last part. Now, the other very important news is with respect to see this news we have already covered: vacation of Supreme Court and High Court judges, the debate and the facts. That what is the report, and we've already talked about the fact that the BJP MPs are saying that the Supreme Court and the High Court should not go for vacation benches, especially given the fact that we have around 40 million cases or 4 crore cases pending there, and there should not be any breaks. And the fact that poor people will denied justice because of the fact that the judges are going to vacation. But at the same point of time, judges themselves are under a huge amount of pressure because they work 12 to 14 hours every day, and everyone deserves a break. So there needs to be some kind of a relief from their daily schedule. As you say, the same goes for lawyers as well. So therefore there is an element of debate whether they should be given this or not. Now let's talk about this particular article, which is making urea deliver more. Very important article because of the fact that the Prime Minister has recently launched what is called as urea gold. You can expect a question on this in next year's prelims. Now, what is urea gold? This is developed by Rashtriya Chemical Fertilizers Limited, and it is urea fortified by sulfur. So what happens is that you have this normal urea which gives nitrogen, and you have fortified sulfur with it. With sulfur, what happens is that the urea, that is the nitrogen that will be released to the soil, will also be slow, and the absorption rate will also be very high. So this saves on efficiency of the urea, and it also gives a micronutrient to the plants in terms of sulfur. So this is what we need to start off with. Now, normal urea contains 46% of single plant nutrient nitrogen. Urea has 37% of nitrogen, 17% of sulfur. So basically, both things are being given, and country significantly imports our soil significantly deficient in sulfur, and when we import both the quantities. But apart from that, the second is to improve the nitrogen use efficiency. That the coating of sulfur also ensures that the release of nitrogen is more gradual, and which basically means that lesser amount of nitrogen will be needed per unit of soil, and therefore efficiency in agriculture will also increase. Now, what is the problem? The problem with respect to urea is that urea is the most widely used fertilizer in the country. Its usage has increased from 26 million tons to 35 million tons, because of which the imports have also increased. But what the Modi government has done in the previous few years is coating of urea with neem oil, reducing the size of bags from 50 kgs to 45 kgs. And there was some slight dip in the use of urea during some years, but now it has increased again. But one of the major problems with the making of urea is it uses natural gas. Natural gas is something that we import, and therefore the prices of nitrogenous urea is increasing, but the government is providing it at subsidized rate. Therefore, the government subsidy bill on urea and fertilizers has been increasing throughout the last few years. Then the second major concern is that barely 35% of the nitrogen applied is actually utilized. The rest is leached into the atmosphere or into the soil, which causes a lot of problems. So now we need fortification as a solution. You can fortify these urea, DAP, and MOP with small elements like rocks, phosphate, potash, sulfur. All of these can be fortified with this, and it helps in reducing the ammonia volatilization as well as nitrate leaching into the soil, because now the release of nitrogen will be very slow. Then there is talk of a crop by Yara International, which is called as Procoat, and Procoat is basically we have already been using Procoat zinc in our environment, and now we are going to as well as Procoat boron, manganese, and zinc. So all of this things have been infused. The yield is much more, the cost is much less. Is that what is being talked? But at the same point of time, there is hurdle with respect to pricing of these. Very important articles that you need to read. So this is about this particular newspaper. We'll cover a couple of news articles from yesterday's newspaper, and then we'll cover the rest of the articles later on. Now, If you see the newspaper of 15, yeah. So one article that you need to maybe read. One article that you maybe need to read is The Road Ahead of Steering Wheel. The article is written by Justice Dhananjay Chandrachud. It talks about what are the issues with respect to how courts are very important. What are the expectations of the court? If you read the article on page number page number 9, it talks about what are the responsibilities, how there's a very important point of accountability of judges, how judges should be accountable, how people's participation in justice should be there, what is expected out of the people, how people, for example, rigid procedures and all of this could help deny justice to people. So this article talks about that as well. It talks about compassionate and human application of law. It also talks about that the justice should be citizen centric, and every action of judges are dissected these days, so they should be aware about their own biases and they should overcome their own all of their own biases. So this is the entire article that is there. Very very important article that you need to study, or you may need to read. But apart from that, because it talks about general rhetoric, you can easily read it up. But other news that you should know is the government SOP. So this article is also important. The government SOP for judges: do not use names, do not name officials for court panels. So if you recently remember, the Supreme Court has set up a committee for the Manipur case, where an IPS officer has been appointed. Now, what the government is saying, the government has come up with an SOP, standard operating procedure for judges, and it's saying that do not appoint people. Just say that we would need a DGP in this particular committee, and the government will do that. The other thing is that if the bureaucrats are not officers of the court, if they are coming in formal dresses, even if they are not coming in a court appropriate or a black suit, you cannot put restrictions on that individual, because that is not an officer of the court. As long as that person is well dressed and officially dressed, you should do. Apart from that, if there is a contempt of court case against a judgment, that the same judge should not sit on it. For example, recently the Allahabad High Court had punished two senior bureaucrats because they had not complied with the order of that particular court. So if I am the judge and I am saying that you have contempted against the order of the judge, I should not be sitting on that contempt order also. Some other judge should be giving that. So this is another article. The other important news is with respect to vegetable prices, because of which the inflation has now reached to 7.44%. But it's not just the inflation of this. Even the WPI is increasing from minus 4.4%. It has increased to minus 1.1%, which is, it is still in the deflation zone, but the level has increased. But at the same point of time, if you see the CPI, the CPIC, cereals, milk products, vegetables, and all of these products have increased. Pulses, all of their prices have increased in double digits, because of which the inflation has increased. So you can read this articles. Then if you really want to read articles, folks, you can read there's an article written by Smriti Mishra on the editorial page. She got ranked 4 this year, page number 15. Then maybe you can read another article, I Aspire, and you can use it as a case study on page number 14. These are stories regarding women and their journey. You can maybe read this particular article as well. But there is not enough meat in these articles, except for the fact they talk about women empowerment, how they've come up with their own stories. You can use these adages somewhere or the other, but not enough meat for me to. Then dealing with the surge inflation article, very very important, folks. We already know that inflation is increasing. It is being driven by inflation. Vegetables at 37%, spices 21%, pulses and other products at 21%, or at 13%. So all of these are leading to inflation. Apart from the fact that, but one thing that is good is that core inflation. Core inflation is that part of inflation which is completely in the hands of the government, where it is non-fuel, non-food. So food is dependent on rainfall, therefore it's something which is not in our hands, and fuel, because it's controlled by OPEC, it is not in our hands. So the non-food, non-fuel inflation, which is the core inflation, is around 5%, which is a good news. But apart from that, the other aspects of the inflation are very high. Although some aspects of this inflation will definitely come down, because the prices of some of the products are seasonally very high, but they should come down very soon. So apart from that, you can read these articles if you want. I will move on to I really want to move to page number 26, the explained page. Oh, it's pronounced as Sakshi. So why are doctors protesting? Now there are two articles that have been come up, and very important articles. What the IMA has come up with is new guidelines which asks doctors that when they are writing prescriptions, need to write legibly, as well as the fact they need to give generic names of medicines rather than company names. For example, if you have fever, you should not be given Dolo, or Crocin. You should be given paracetamol is what should be written, and it is upon the pharmacist to give you a generic medicine. So what it does, what the doctor says, is that right now we know which medicine to give, because we know the efficacy of that particular medicine. We know which medicine works, which medicine does not work. The problem with generic medicines and in general all medicines is that there is no data in terms of testing and whether they work or not. These are called as biosimilars. So you have a patented product and you have a generic product. Generic product might be 100th price of this product. But at the same point, so this is called as a biosimilar. The biological response will be very similar. But at the same point of time, you need to have some testing of these biosimilar products, which is absent in case of India. We really don't know whether these products are working or not. So this is one lacuna. Then the other thing is the doctor will write something that give paracetamol. Now the burden shifts to the pharmacist, who decides whether to give you Dolo, which is an expensive product, or give you a very generic product, which is very simple, very this thing. So again, the doctors, if you're a patient in my hospital, if you're my patient, and if you've been treated by a specialized product, you will question that why should I come to you? Why should I directly not go to the pharmacist? So these are very pertinent issues which the Doctors Association have now raised. That how will they go about treating patients? So this is one article that you need to read. The other is wildfires are spreading in Hawaii, and what is happening is that in any case you had this Hurricane Dora that was there, and the land use of Hawaii has changed from this farm and forest land to flammable non-native species of grasses like the Guinea grasses that can easily spread fire. So apart from that, you have forest fires are also good. Don't just write forest fire bad. Forest fires are also good because they replenish the soil. They also clear the forest, and so that the sunlight can reach the forest surface as well, and then you have germination of new micronutrient or nutrients. So it is good, but at the same point of time, what is happening is the kind of forest fires that we are getting is mainly because of human intervention, climate change, change in land use, and apart from that, the hotting of or the warming of the upper northern hemisphere in this particular year. We've also heard a number of news with respect to this. The kind of wildfires that we are getting even in Europe is because of the higher temperatures. So this is another news article that you need to read. All of PM features you can easily read. But then another article that I want to cover is behind Tamil Nadu versus Center, the issue of NEET. So here you need to note that the contribution of Kamaraj. So Kamaraj was one of the first chief ministers. K. Kamaraj was one of the first chief ministers of Tamil Nadu, and he said that there need to be a school in every 3 kilometers, a high school in every 5 kilometers, and he used to give privileges. So in terms of giving seats to under the CM quota, he used to pick up those forms which had thumb impressions, which basically he used to give opportunities to those students whose parents were not educated, who were coming from a humble background. And what Tamil Nadu is saying, Tamil Nadu has twice brought about a law which says that that the admissions to medical colleges will be on the basis of class 12th marks. Now this is something which is an issue with respect to federal issue as well, that the government is standardizing education in India, one nation, one examination, whether it's JE, whether it's your this examination. Okay, whether it's examination or whether it's your CUET. So you have one nation, one examination that the government is proposing, but at the same point of time, what happens is the proliferation of coaching has started, and there was this A.K. Rajan committee which was set up by the Tamil Nadu government, and it said that 99% of people who got selected in NEET were all coached, and 71% were repeaters. And what you find because of the introduction of NEET is that there is an urban bias with respect to the examination. Students from Chennai and these urban cities are increasing. Children from the backward districts are reduced because of the requirement of coaching for this particular examination. So this is the article which is important for you to read. Then two more articles that I want you to read. Whew, too many news, folks. Not for media censorship, but TV self-regulation panel needs more teeth. So you have this panel called as News Channels and Digital Association, and it is headed by a retired Supreme Court judge. It is a self-regulatory body. But what the Supreme Court has said, that you've been imposing, if someone has erred with respect to wrong news reporting, you have only imposed a fine of 1 lakh rupees, and everyone will easily be able to afford 1 lakh rupees. What you should do is, the Supreme Court says that whatever profits that you earned that day because of this particular program, you should be able to the NSDA should impose a fine which is equivalent to that amount of revenue that you earned because of that. So self-regulation is not working. You need to have more teeth. You need to have harsher punishments, so that all these news agencies come into line. So this is a very important article that you need to read. And then on the next page, folks, on the next page, we have the Aditya L1 mission, which is going to be launched in September. The entire article you need to read, that what is this L1. L1 is a point, it's a Lagrange point. Between any two celestial bodies, you have 5 L1 points, where the force of the gravitational pull of the celestial body and the push out of that particular orbit is the same. So that is why it's called a Lagrange. Lagrange basically means a point where your I mean, mathematically we say that the optimization point is the Lagrange point. So you think in terms of second differential and third differential when you talk about Lagrange points. So when we talk about Aditya 1 will stand out at that Lagrange point. We have Earth observatories to measure, to see sun, but at the same point on, because of weather conditions, we are not able to see that properly at times. So this will give us uninterrupted vision of the sun. We can see the coronal mass ejections, wind flares, solar emissions, all of this we can see 24/7, and it will be facing moon as well. Apart from that, we have number of instruments that we have developed in India that have been given in this particular article. You can read all those things. But this is a very, very important article for you to read from science and tech perspective. And last two news. Last two news, India's merchandise exports dropped to 9-month low to $32 billion in July. But imports have also reduced, therefore our trade deficit, which is exports minus imports, have also reduced in these particular years. So this is what we last year we had exported a huge amount, which was for $776 billion of goods and services both. This year, we are not very sure that this is likely or not. The reason that our exports are reducing is because of the fact that the world is undergoing a kind of a recessionary phase. The overall growth in the world is reducing. If all countries in the world, their output is reducing, their imports will also reduce. If their imports will reduce, our exports will also reduce. And that is also the reason that this is happening. But apart from that, oil is one of our major exports, and the price of oils have softened down in the last few months. Therefore, our exports have also softened up. Then the other news is Ayushman Bharat Insurance, private sector, private players outbid PSUs firms to back two states. One of the states is Meghalaya, the other is Gujarat. And you need to know about the Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Arogya scheme, especially because of the fact that the CAG has recently highlighted the inefficiencies and the corruption in this particular scheme, where there have been beneficiaries who are already dead. There are 4 numbers linked to same number. Remember that article where one number and I had 7 lakh people enrolled with that number. So all of these issues, and then the violation of the fact that funds have been used for other things except for Ayushman Bharat scheme. So you need to know about the scheme. What are the income limitations of the scheme? 12 crore people have been covered under this particular scheme. The state governments can add more to it. Then there are 2 models to this Ayushman Bharat scheme. One is called as the trust insurance and the combination of both schemes. So you need to know about this combination as well. And we are giving benefits to 5 to 12 crore people at 5 lakhs per person. That's all about this particular news. So this is with respect to these 2 newspapers. We've had a very long day with respect to newspapers, but these are important newspapers that we have to cover. So with this, folks, we will end our class. I will see you tomorrow again at 5 a.m. or 5 to 5:15 a.m. Thank you very much. Bye, folks.